Hello everybody and welcome to 0 Mile ADV, a beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling. In today's video, we're going to talk about why I chose the KTM Super Adventure S over the more popular R. So let's go for a ride.
Alright, so before we go for a ride, let's talk about reason number one, and that is the overall seat height of the S versus the R. Plus it has the electronic suspension, which you can kind of adjust the preload, so how high up it sits up and down with the luggage on it. And for me, for somebody that's a little bit shorter, 5'9" on a good day, having it pretty much all the way down just makes it really accessible. Plus I got I think this seat's only about 10 mil lower, so it's not, maybe it's like a ½ inch lower with this Power Parts heated seat, but it does just give me a little bit extra leg room being a little bit shorter. So as we can see, pretty easy for me to throw my leg over. You know, both feet, I'm kind of on the balls of my feet on both sides, so it's pretty easy for me to manage and really easy for me to flat foot on one side. If I flat foot my other foot, you know, I can touch my tippy toes to help keep me balanced. So if I'm flat footing on this side and something were to go wrong, I can easily put my other foot down. So really reason number one would just be the overall seat height. So let's talk about reason number two, and that's that I have no friends. And what I mean by that is I have no motorcycling friends, meaning that a lot of the riding I'm going to be doing is out by myself cruising around. I even have some plans of potentially taking the bike to some work conferences that are going to be down in the desert later this late fall and in kind of early winter, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. But in order to do that, I'm going to be by myself, and so that means I'm going to be riding a lot of places where I need to be accessible, and if something were to happen, I can get the help that I need so I'm not stranded. So I'd say another big reason as to why I got the S over the R's, I'm going to be riding a lot of places that aren't just that crazy, and I need to be able to be safe. So reason number two, because I have no friends. Alright, so let's talk about reason number four, and that's I didn't want a dirt bike. So as we kind of cruise this little dirt road here in the local state park, I wanted a bike that could come out and, you know, kind of do these cool dirt roads, get me some cool places, but I wasn't looking for an actual dirt bike. And a lot of adventure bikes are like mountain bikes in a lot of ways. You kind of have to pick and choose your battles. So do you want your adventure bike to be really good off-road, or do you want it to be a little bit more street oriented? And as I talked about in some of the other reasons, and there's a little bit of overlap here, I wanted my bike to be a little bit more street oriented, and hence the reason I went with the S. So I didn't want something that was a complete gnarly dirt bike, but I wanted something to come out to these state parks, give me some cool places, but not be just an overall dirt bike and really kind of uncomfortable on the road. And it looks like I'm low on fuel. And so with that, for reason number four, is that I didn't want a dirt bike. Alright, so let's talk about reason number four. And as I get off this gravel road and I get onto the street, I like the idea of the electronic suspension. Now, I don't know if these modes actually change the suspension damping, or if in the bike you actually have to go here and then come here and change the suspension mode, which I have a street, comfort, or sport. Now, I like the idea of this electronic suspension. So why is that? You know, on the R, it's fully manual, which means that the valves are probably a lot stronger. If you look at a lot of mountain bikes, it's all manual. And if we use the mountain bike comparison, because I like to use that a lot, I like kind of set it and forget it. So like even on my mountain bike, I will go to I have Cane Creek suspension on my Rocky Mountain Instinct. And so I went to Cane Creek's website, basically got the recommended settings for my weight, and then kind of set it and forget it. I'm not a person who wants to go out and kind of rerun the same track over and over and over again until I really fine tune and dial my suspension. For me, I'd much rather be out riding, having fun, kind of doing everything I want. The reason I got the bike in the first place is to have fun with it, rather than kind of being out spending a whole bunch of time dialing in the suspension. The other problem too that I have is that I love to purchase new bikes, so I imagine I'll own this bike for a couple years before I decide I want to try something else, and maybe my riding style will change, and so at that point it'll be time to get something different. And so I really like the idea of kind of set it and forget it. And so for reason number 4 was the electronic suspension that kind of allowed it to set it to the factory settings and allowed me to set it and forget it. All right, so let's talk about reason number 5, and probably also one of the biggest reasons why I got the S over the R. Now, as we hop on the highway, you know, I'm sure a lot of people will tell you when you first get a motorcycle, being on the highway is terrible. I don't know how else to describe it other than it's scary. You know, you're on 2 wheels, you're going, in this case, 60 miles an hour. And a lot of the highways around here, especially when you get over to Utah, once you cross the state line, are 80 miles an hour. And so I wanted something that was going to help me feel more comfortable on the highway. Something that was going to give me the confidence I needed to be able to get up to those speeds, have it feel stable, have it feel relatively safe. Now, I talked to a lot of people, and I actually talked to a guy that was with his dad, and they were at the local BMW dealer, and they were traveling across the country. And one thing that he said is that, you know, when he first got more dirt-oriented tires on his bike, it was kind of terrifying on the highway just because of the way they rode. It wasn't as stable. And so now this bike came with 80/20 tires, and they are super comfortable on the highway. They feel great at speed. They corner really well, at least for what I know, right? I'm 100% beginner, so I can only give you my, you know, 1,000-mile experience thus far. But really, one of the biggest reasons was just the overall highway riding ability. And more experienced riders would probably tell me that, you know, the R is just fine. They feel 100% comfortable with the more off-road oriented suspension and, you know, all that jazz, and it would just take some time. But for me, I knew that I was going to be doing a lot of highway riding, and I wanted it to be comfortable on the highway and not make me scared, but help me build some confidence. So last but not least, it was highway riding ability. Hey everybody, so if you made it this far, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you could, just hit the subscribe button. It really helps to build my channel. And of course, stay safe out there, everybody.